The term Bizarro is an adjective that has a lot of meanings. In fact, according to the Real Academia Española, who, so you understand me, are basically the admins of the Spanish language. They give us as the main meaning that Bizarro refers to something brave or determined. For example, that brave man said that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was not to his liking. Unfortunately, a few hours later, his lifeless body was found floating in a river. Okay, I think that's clear. But for this video, we're going to stick with the colloquial definition of bizarre, which has been used a lot on the internet in recent years and with which most people are more familiar, which refers to something strange, uncomfortable, or downright disturbing, something that definitely shouldn't be happening. So this time, I'm going to show you 3 anime power-ups that, in one way or another, are very bizarre. Whether it's because they happen without any context and leave you with a huge what the fuck face, because they happen in an obviously uncomfortable situation, or because they're so unexpected that it'll take you a whole week to get rid of that what the fuck face. So without any more lame introductions, let's get to the video. But before that, my editor Perico says I should plug the live channel to get more followers over there. So, you know, link in the description. Love you, Ubu. Let's start from the least to the most because I don't want you all to be traumatized from the very first minute. Look, we all know that Dragon Ball Super isn't exactly known for being the most well-crafted anime in terms of storytelling. In fact, it's probably one of the anime with the most nonsensical moments when it comes to the plot, since the Dragon Ball franchise has the bad habit of giving you some fixed and solid foundations. Then, for some weird plot convenience, they say, I don't care at all, this is my anime, I do whatever I want with it whenever I want. That leaves us with such endearing moments, like suddenly, the Patera fusion isn't permanent. Using the Mafuba is no longer a deadly technique that's used as a last resort, but instead becomes just another move you can spam as much as you want. Or the infamous way to achieve the Super Saiyan state by focusing ki in your back, although it also works if you focus it in your crotch. But Toriyama explained that in an interview with Shonen Jump in April 2017, yes, this really happened. Believe me. But without a doubt, what really threw us all off were those weird power-ups that Trunks had in the Black Goten saga. First, totally out of context, he reached that state known as Super Saiyan Rage, a transformation that's not even remotely explained, and that they won't explain in the future either, since the transformation doesn't make any sense. Isn't there a reason for Trunks to go down a different evolutionary path, like the Digimon? It's true that the conversation he had with his father in the present about the Super Saiyan levels, maybe he was actually preparing for Trunks' new future form. But, as always, it falls into the biggest mistake that Dragon Ball Super has, which is not knowing when they're giving too much to a character. An excessive and completely disproportionate power boost, to the point that it becomes uncomfortable for any fan over 14 years old. But without a doubt, the most infamous power-up in the history of Dragon Ball, and probably one of the lamest in anime in general. It was the infamous Genki. Trunks not only uses a technique he doesn't know and has no way of knowing, but he also makes up an unnecessary variant using the sword. To make matters worse, the energy he uses in that technique was tiny, because the Spirit Bomb is a technique that's generated using the life energy of other living beings. And in Trunks' future, there were barely a few people left alive. So with just the life energy of a few dozen humans without any special abilities, it was enough to create a blade of energy strong enough to defeat fused Zamasu. Or at least his physical body, which is still something completely disproportionate. It's not like he absorbed the energy from a large part of the universe, right? It was the energy of a few sad and exhausted people. Right now, all of you must be asking a million logical questions. So, is the Spirit Bomb a technique that can be achieved intuitively without being taught by its creator? How much energy does the Spirit Bomb really need to work? Does it work with feelings or something like that? Why didn't any of Vegetto's attacks do as much damage to Zamasu as the Spirit Sword did? Why do people like sword art online? I don't know. I can't know. I'm incapable of understanding who thought this was a good idea. Good Lord, are you telling me that they really didn't realize at any point that what they were doing was terrible? Did no one have the courage to say that this fan service was as unnecessary as it was horrible? Let's move on to the next power-up. Talking about Dragon Ball Super takes years off my life. Now let's move on to power-up from the bizarre adventure of Jose. And no, I'm not going to make the joke about there being a bizarre power-up in a series that has bizarre in the title. My comedy is cringe, but not that much. For this power-up, we need to focus on the fourth part of the Diamond is Unbreakable anime, specifically on the main villain, Yoshikage Kira. I never knew how to spell it. I'm sorry. I promise this is the last time I make the Kira joke. Well, the second to last. Let me refresh your memory. Yoshikage managed to force a stand user to completely change his physical appearance, to look like a family man and in this way, take his identity and hide temporarily. So Kira pretended to be the husband of an annoying woman and the father of a pretty young boy, who soon began to suspect him and had spy cameras in his parents' room. Something that, now that I think about it, was pretty weird in itself, although I'd rather not dig into that topic. The situation was already bizarre enough. Imagine that a horrible and ruthless criminal gets rid of your father and takes his identity. I'm sure there's some horror movie with a similar plot. The thing is, it gets worse when Kira gets his beta tasto, or his little kiloquin, as the guys call it. Here, it's true that I've made a small exception, because we could say that what's bizarre isn't the power-up itself, but rather the situation and the context in which it happens. Because if we look at the scene where the arrow pierces Kira, we can see that a small child is taking a bath alone, with a man who, besides not being his father, is pretending to be, and on top of that is a horrible psychopath. The climax of the scene comes when that disturbing man kills the child while he's still in the bath, both of them without clothes. Do I really have to explicitly explain why this is uncomfortable and disturbing? Normally, characters get their power-ups in a fight, find them somewhere, someone gives them to them, or they just get them by chance. But I'd never seen anyone get a power-up by taking a bath with a child, whom he later kills in cold blood. Well, I think you get the idea. Let's just say what's interesting here is that in almost any other context, this power-up wouldn't be anything special. It would be a power-up like any other, gained by chance. But no, this is Jojo, and in Jojo, nothing is ever that simple. Anyway. Let's get to the main course. I've saved the best for last, so we could say this is the crown jewel of this video. Although, considering the cases we've just talked about, I don't think it's a reason to feel very proud. Baki is a martial arts anime, very old school. Don't expect to find philosophical messages, social criticism, or masterful dialogues in this manga. In Baki, people express all, and I repeat, all their emotions toward others by beating each other up. Are you my little brother? I'll beat you up. Did you kill my friend? I'll beat you up. Did you save my life? I'll beat you up. Do you want a beautiful father someday? We'll beat each other up too. Let's just say it's the universal form of expression in this anime. Just like in any work of this genre, power-ups are very common. In Baki, people usually increase their strength by undergoing different martial arts training, although there are a few exceptions. And here we go with the real reason for the existence of this video. During the Convict Saga, Baki didn't have a significant role until quite a few episodes later. While all his acquaintances, including his brother Jacques Tula de Elefante, were trying to defeat all the prisoners, Baki disconnected a bit from the fighting and went into shoujo mode regarding his relationship with Kosue. The two of them had already been a couple for some time, but it turned out they couldn't find the right moment to have sex. And this, well, was causing some problems within their relationship itself. Yes, for once I'm not joking. But things are about to get really bizarre from now on. When they finally decide to do it and have a moment alone, Yuhiro Hanma, Baki's father and the main antagonist of the series, appears in the couple's room right at the moment before they were about to make babies. Do you guys understand me? I don't want to know how the hell Yuhiro knew exactly when his son was about to use his thing for the first time. But the thing is, he was very, very punctual. The point is, he starts giving his son some kind of love advice, for lack of a better word, in front of his girlfriend, Kosue, of course, which makes it about 1,000 times more awkward if you ask me. In short, he tells his son in front of his girlfriend that if he wants to become as strong as him, he has to play doctor with Kosue as many times as he can, before dying of exhaustion. Okay? Thing is, well, Yuhiro wasn't too far off, because a few days later, the couple ended up together at Baki's house watching Netflix, but without the Netflix. And in theory, they spent 2 days going at it nonstop. When they finished, Baki switched back to shonen mode and went to beat up the first unlucky guy he could find. In the end, he ended up beating 2 of the inmates to a pulp, the same ones he could barely face before. He did it separately and without even trying. By the way, why? What? Why? Well, it turns out that just like Yuhiro said, having sex gave Baki a totally disproportionate power-up, something he basically never would have achieved just by training. Not even when Baki had to beat the crap out of a giant ape that was like 4 meters tall. At his damn 13 years of age, he got a power-up as big as this. He reached a level where even while dying from poison, he still had strength to spare. Enough to defeat some of the best Chinese kung fu masters on the face of the earth. Does this power-up make any sense? Not at all. In Baki, many times it's said that with certain manipulation of your own brain, you can make yourself stronger or more resistant through substances produced by your own body, like endorphins. But that still doesn't give a coherent explanation for this phenomenon of becoming more powerful just by, well, I guess it's because of having Hanma bloodline. In this anime, if you're a Hanma and your name isn't Jack, it's like you're totally hacked. Without a doubt, I give Baki's anime the dubious award for the weirdest and most bizarre power-up I've ever seen in my life.